everyone. My name is Jeff Reber. I'm the lead TSM for Composites 1. Welcome to the demo zone. Today we're going to be making some marine hardtops. What we have here is 3 A-side molds that are identical. Starting over here, we have one that we're going to build with the light RTM process. This one's going to be built with a vacuum infusion with a reusable silicone bag. And over here we have one that's going to be built with standard vacuum infusion. Now, all these demos are presented by Composites 1 in the Closed Mold Alliance. So if you're considering looking into closed molding, you can come to the Closed Mold Alliance. We can help you out with material selection, equipment, like resin injection equipment, adhesive equipment, and also tooling design and mold building. Ready? So they're going to start this injection. Go ahead. And you'll see the resin going through that line into the mold. There's a built-in resin runner down the one side of the mold, closest to Steve there. So you can see the resin going into the part. It's going to spread out through that resin runner, and it's going to flow across the part. So you can actually see the resin flowing across the part. If you saw the skateboard demo, one difference between this is that we're pulling the resin across from one side to the other side. So we have the resin going in this side, vacuum on the other side, as opposed to the skateboard where the resin's introduced all the way around the perimeter of the part and the vacuum's in the center. So we're going to let that part keep going. It's about a little over halfway wet out, right? Yeah. Okay. While we move down here, we'll get this one started up. This is a standard vacuum infusion. So you'll see some differences between the light RTM down there and this vacuum infusion. So we're going to be introducing the resin in the middle. We have a flow medium on the surface. So the light RTM, that one's wetting out through the thickness, through the laminate. There's that flow material in the Rovicore that's wetting out. This one, basically we're wetting out across the surface. That's what the green material is. And he also has this ink effusion material, and this is an even higher flow material. So what he's doing is he's putting in very low resistance, a little bit lower, and then as you go out, the resistance builds to basically get the part to wet out evenly. So now you see the resin's going in. Another thing that you might see in this is, because we're providing some positive pressure, you may see the bag balloon a little bit. So what Dan's going to be doing is he's going to be dialing in the injection pressure to try and match. The vacuum's trying to draw the resin through, and he wants to try and match that rate so that he doesn't balloon the bag up. But as the pump strokes, you may see that bag balloon a little bit. So far, he's doing a pretty good job, though. And a lot of times with vacuum infusion, people just do this out of a bucket. So they have a bucket of resin, this line goes into the bucket, and it draws the resin in. One thing you gotta be careful of, if you do that, make sure that your bucket is always lower than your part. So if you have the bucket up above the part, you'll basically start to siphon, you'll develop positive pressure, and it'll balloon the bag, and you'll get a very resin-rich part. So this one will probably be the fastest injection. Light RTM will be second. This one will probably be the slowest. You stop the injection, and you have to flush the machine. Otherwise, the resin's going to gel inside the mixing head, which is really bad. You don't want to let that happen. So we're just about ready to flush the machine. So we've got the light RTM part that's completely wet out. The vacuum infusion part is essentially wet out. You'll notice that this run out that we put on the flange isn't quite wet out, but that's past the trim line. Really, the main reason that you put this material out on the flange is so that when you go to demold the part, you can get a plastic wedge underneath it. So, a couple things left to do. So we saw the silicone bag part to infuse. I think you guys are ready to go, right? We talk a lot in closed molding about permeability, and this is a pretty good example of it. You can see that this part is definitely wetting out slower than the other two parts. We have about a 25-minute gel time, which is fine. This part will wet out in plenty of time. But it shows you some of the differences between what materials and processes you can use and how they wet out faster and slower. Now, another thing that I want to show you with the silicone membrane, We do have customers that do this. If they know exactly how much resin goes in the part, I'm going to dial up the injection pressure a little bit. And you're going to see the bag right at the injection port. It's going to balloon up with excess resin when I do that. So you can see right there how there's a lot of extra resin going in. Now when I dial the pump pressure back down, that resin is going to dissipate and flow out into the part. So this part's about 60 to 70% wet out. And that's what we've seen in the past. This usually with the continuous strand mat, we take about 10 minutes to get this part wet out. So it's on track to do that. So at this point, we've got 2 3/4 parts wet out. So all the infusions are just about complete. We appreciate you coming out. Thank you.